the unlikeliness, the likeliness of the message is solid. The unlikeliness of the messenger is questioned on a daily basis. It's marrying the mythos and the logos, which has a lot to do with symmetry, or the appearance of symmetry, or where symmetry and asymmetry is a little more nuanced, because anti-symmetry, there are many ways things can be asymmetric and yet balanced. Yet things can be asymmetric and unbalanced. If we put the same idea to symmetry, we might say, oh, well, symmetry is always balanced, except for when we balance that which ought not be symmetric. At first glance, well, my wild carrots are dying now. But at first glance they may appear symmetric, but if you scan a few pics on the interweb, easily and quickly we find that they're not symmetric. They have the whole pinecone coil. Pinecone puncari, pinecone puncari, pinecone puncari. Now, most of the Poincaré things we look at are symmetrical, or at least most of the images of Poincaré objects I've seen are symmetrical, and pinecones aren't. And so far as phonetic symbolism goes, if you say both quickly, pinecone, 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 Poincaré, 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 pinecone, 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 pinecone. And if you truncate the end at the end of pinecone, it's Poincaré, 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 Poincaré. Well, anyway. If asymmetry exists at a very, very fine level, yet at a large level there's this polarity between anti-symmetries. Something can appear symmetric that at a fine grain is not. And that brings me to this image, which I've made a lot of stuff with this image. Took me months to paint this by hand. It's got shy. I believe shy. I'm not good at math, so I have to figure stuff out, and I forget things a lot. But it's basically shy of 40,000 pixels. Each pixel took 2 coats, so it's just shy of 80,000 individual paintings, so to speak. And each painting took a minimum of 2 brush strokes, though some took up to maybe 8. So if we average that, it's 5. 80,005. So there's about 400,000 brush strokes in this image. And it might appear symmetric, but there is a value symmetry, but and that had to do with my color choices. It doesn't necessarily have to be, it's a pattern that doesn't necessarily have to be represented value symmetric. It could be represented color temperature symmetric. But in this depiction, it's quote unquote value symmetric and temperature antisymmetric. So, in some of my pictures of this, if you were to look at it, the way the brain processes it, it will almost look like a symmetry or a perfect pattern, but then there will be these few little cross dots that like twinkle. But the twinkling is because from left to right, the patterns are value symmetric and temperature asymmetric. The twinkling is where on one side what's red is on the other side what's blue, and on one side what's blue is on the other side is red. On one side, and the red and the blue and the orangish yellow and green correspond with each other. And it depends very much on what angle you hold it at. As to what pattern you see. And had I made different color choices, and I often just feel like repainting the whole thing. I listened to several of the first. I started with the first Terry Goodkind audiobook of the Sword of Truth series. Richard Rarl, Callan, the Confessor. When I did this, it was just after something very brutal happened in my life. And, but anyway, right. Something can appear symmetric that isn't, much like the human body. We speak of like brain symmetry, but we know there's a difference between left and right brain. And there's this like almost apparent symmetry between like blood vessels and so on, but not really. And then the digestive system, which just blows the whole thing up, man. You know, my right and left bicep aren't so different, except for, you know, if I were ambidextrous fully, they seemingly wouldn't be different, except for the fact that what feeds them both is my asymmetric gut. My lungs are more or less symmetric at a large scale. My heart's not symmetric. My vagus nerve ain't symmetric. My vertebrae are symmetric, kinda. But what about at a smaller scale? But yet we all spiral out of one little coil. One little coil. One little coil. So, I'm just trying to figure it out. This is not profound. There's nothing profound in anything that I say. Yet, and I'm not talking about this necessarily, or this video necessarily, but I have stumbled upon something that is a several thousand-year-old quote-unquote secret, but not a secret to be kept. The thing about secrets is that they're meant to be revealed at a time and place. It's becoming increasingly difficult to deny that I am to reveal at least to one person some secret. And it's not unimportant if it were to reach one person, because it will be a part of the chain that reaches everyone. And if everyone is not reached, then none of it matters. Anyway, it's increasingly difficult to deny that I have a role in this. It's increasingly difficult to deny that I am a part of this chain. So when the nows of today and the days before and the days to come collapse upon a moment, I must respond. And this is just such a response. Why me? Why you? Why your folks? Why your friends? Why Gandhi? Why Krishna? Why Lenin? Why Mao? Why Trump? Why Ron Paul? Why FDR? Why George Washington? Why George Washington Carver? Who Edison, I think it was Edison, said was like the smartest scientist in America or in the world. I think it was Edison who said that. And all the Tesla people are being like, Edison, that motherfucker! Well, maybe another way to look at it is, because we talk about the lesser of evils. The lesser of evils. The other side of that would be the greater of goods, from a butterfly effect sense. Right? Because if Tesla was more right and Edison was more wrong, but if we take the butterfly effect into account, unless we're talking about seeming symmetries like I talked about before, the heart and the gut and the human body, maybe Tesla was the right choice. So is the quote-unquote opposite, if we're talking about symmetries and anti-symmetries, asymmetries, anti-symmetries, depending, is is the opposite, depends what we mean by opposite, because opposite can be a mirror, opposite can be a rotation, opposite can be an upside down in a mirror, which is similar to a rotation, but it involves 360 degrees, or it involves a sphere. How many degrees in a sphere? 7290? 720? I don't know. So, lesser of two evils is one way of thinking. A greater of two goods, right? Because Tesla and Edison were both good. So maybe Edison was the greater of two goods. But that would be a perfect mirror symmetry versus a anti-symmetric mirrored symmetry, in which case the lesser of two goods would be the right thing to choose. The lesser of two evils versus the greater of two goods versus the lesser of two goods which relates to the Nash equilibrium, which relates to free will. Which relates to you choosing the right thing, which relates to God taking a chance on you because God sees the butterfly effect. So sometimes it's the same thing with VHS and beta. Perhaps God, or whatever you call it, it doesn't matter. The fact that Edison was chosen over Tesla means that Edison was right for the time. If you have hope, faith, and love, right? Maybe. Because we could be on a path to failure. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I believe I'm on a path toward my own end, but I don't believe that we are on a path to failure. I believe we are on a path to success. What does success mean? The expression of hate is real now. It has become physical. The potentiality of hate has become a real thing. Certain species represent that, the potential of hate. I'm going to prove it. Thought forms. There are certain species that exist because we, as the powerful, we're a powerful form. We can do a lot. We may not be the most powerful form, even though we think we are. But let's just say we are. Because we're upright, we have mobility, we have these fingers, and we have created this technology. Never mind that which, and when I say we, I'm being very liberal, because I sure the fuck didn't, and I'm pretty sure you didn't. But whoever you are and whoever I am is very closely related in physical form to that which selective. I shouldn't say selectively. Selectively, mentally selectively, and from the heart, created this thing that we're in. But collectively, blood, sweat, and tears. Why me? Even if I'm only ever to reach one person, and even if that one person's only me. Because I haven't been afraid to be wrong. That's for damn sure. I also haven't been afraid to say certain things that are right that others of great power wouldn't dare to say. You know, the Eisenhower speech, the Kennedy speech. Y'all who are into this know what I mean. And you all who aren't, look it up, man. I'm not sure what you'd have to Google, but if you Googled Kennedy conspiracy speech, Eisenhower conspiracy speech, you'll find it. Right. About that power in the shadows that no one would dare to whisper. I have more than whispered, and I'm just a stupid house painter. Why have I been allowed to? Because I'm also not afraid to show what a broken, what a broken drunkard fool who's mostly wrong. But, going back to game theory, if everybody is 90%, well, if the average person is 90% wrong and 10% right, and if God is 50% right, because God allows free will, therefore God cannot be 100% right. God relies upon the rest of us to make up that 50%. Whenever we tweak away from that 90% wrong, when we're only 89.5% wrong, we're affecting the entire cosmos. Quantum entanglement. Got tachyons and fucking electromagnetic fucking X-ray lasers. NASA made this picture of a star. It was an artistic depiction representing the mathematics of a certain type of star shooting X-ray lasers through the universe, and that has to do with the whole idea of the light spectrum, which goes from whatever it goes to whatever it goes to, and a little bit of it is what we see. Meanwhile, reptiles and amphibians, some of them, frogs, snakes, salamanders, whatever, they can see some infrared. Birds see ultraviolet. Goldfish, so far as I understand, are the only animal on the planet. Well, probably not, but it is said that goldfish are the only animals on the planet that can see both infrared and ultraviolet. And they were domestically bred by, I think at first Chinese, but all over Asia for the last 1,000 years from carp. Carp who were used in the ancient Kabata, which I guess you could call like biological feng shui. If you flip the T upside down, you get the Kabbalah. Never mind what shrimp see. And we got rods and cones, which is what this has to do with. In some of my other pictures, I don't know if I can get it right on this, with this phone right now, but if you look at this in a certain way when it's still, some of the red and blues will kind of flicker because your brain will see the symmetry in value. I can't remember rods or cones, which one sees value and which one sees color, but your value, the way that your value sensing apparati are connected with your brain will code in a certain way to see symmetry, while the color ones will not, and that's what creates this little shimmer. I'll try to maybe just post a still of this image, or at least it happens for me, so you can see what I'm saying. But and it's related to the ABBA, BAAB, BABA, on and on and on, where ABBA, where the A becomes the BAA, or where the ABBA becomes the A, and then the B becomes BAAB, BAAB, because you have ABBA, BAAB, BAABA, BBA. But, and that's what this whole thing came from. Which came from me as a child, trying to remember everything on the way from my folks' house to my grandmother's house, which I've talked about before. But, which seems like trite, but it's not. Because everything has to do with existence, right? 7 billion people in the world. I'll fade out tomorrow. Nobody gives a fuck, right? And that's what's happening right now. Million, billion, gazillion motherfuckers every day dying, coronavirus or whatever. Nobody gives a fuck. But that's the thing. If we don't give a fuck about everybody, man. Why me? Because I care. I care about all the things I don't care about. I care about all those motherfuckers who died today, who made the wrong choices, and those who made the right choices, and died anyway. Because we don't make it unless we all make it together. That's part of it. I'm not that high-minded. I don't live my life that way. I don't pick up every hitchhiker, whatever, nothing. But I feel it in my heart of hearts, you know. The other part of the why me is because I'm willing to show how much of a piece of shit I am. Basically. Which in one sense is too hard. It's too hard in the wrong way. Because I eat the wrong things. I mean, I smoke, I drink, I'm disastrous that way. I'm certainly a pervert, or have been. And it's like, get off my back, man. And that's the whole world. You know, porn's the biggest industry in the fucking world. You know, so we need to get off each other's backs about all that. And trying to understand that, really looking at your own thoughts and the way you think, it's terrifying, man. It's really terrifying. If you're my age and you're married or whatever, like, you have a lot of defensive mechanisms up in place to, like, close yourself off from those thoughts. Those who don't stray, which is less than 50%. And even those who don't might know what I'm saying. But, like, to actually examine, like, the desire, the hunger, you know. And that has to do with meeting, and that has to do with asceticism. Like, I've talked about asceticism before, but I'm no ascetic. And that's why I respect asceticists so much. And it was only yesterday I came to the conclusion, and it actually, I think it is a conclusion, is that because it just finally kind of makes sense, like, asceticists, those who actually achieve asceticism, are probably the biggest fucking, like, animalistic, fucking vicious perverts on the fucking planet. Because no one else would ever desire to shed that so badly that they actually achieved it. Right? If you had a healthy, like, hunger for food, if you had a healthy hunger for the flesh of the opposite sex, or for the same sex, or whatever, or to get your rocks off, or to play with your ding dong. I mean, in Greece, they respected Diogenes. That's a whole different story. But, you know, if you have this insatiable lust, this Dionysian insatiable lust, right? Like, who else would become asceticists? Like, those would be the only, because there's certainly two types of asceticism, the true and the false. The false asceticists would never have I shouldn't say never, because there is the potential of those ordained from the get-go. I weren't ordained from the get-go, whether or not chosen, which is a complicated word. Ordained from the get-go. And maybe I've danced around that subject long enough. I was trying to get to something else. But maybe it's time for a new view and a new video. I'm trying to clean up my other device. Yeah.